Right, let's get record. No, I was literally just on YouTube looking up some of the content and writing notes, but I bet you've got. I like how we're matching. I don't own the domain for Union Jab anymore, you know.
You know.
No, all gone. I've just went through the shed and I found like the roller banner and all the gloves and all of that and had a tear in my eye. But now all Union Jab's gone now. I've just got the remains of some t-shirts and that's it. Basically, I've just literally been sat down writing some notes and watching some content on Eddie versus Thor. What's your background of strongman? Do you have much of a knowledge of strongman already?
Not a great deal. I've watched probably the documentary on Eddie Hall that most people have watched.
Yeah.
I know a couple who have competed in a strongman type, but
yeah,
you know, I do know it's very hard training. It's very intense. It's a hard life, like any professional sport, I suppose. It's, you know, the commitment you have to do for that particular sport to be successful is crazy. But yeah, so I know it's tough. I know it's very hard.
Yeah, I think strongman is probably my favourite sport after boxing. I probably know more about strongman than any other sport except boxing. And the whole way through, you've always seen this rivalry between Eddie and Thor and the clash of personalities. And like, do you know much of the background of them as people? I mean, obviously, if you've seen the Eddie Hall documentary, you'll know what he's like already.
Eddie Hall documentary, obviously, Thor, I mean, probably not a great deal until he was like in Game of Thrones and kind of came into the limelight through that. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think from a nutritional perspective, what they do as well is just so hard. The amount of food they have to eat.
Yeah, they're 10,000 calories a day.
And it's intense as well. And I think you've got to be mentally strong than anything in terms of strongman. Like I say, again, like you do with all sports. But yeah, I don't know a great deal about them, just from what I've seen and what I've read and all that kind of thing.
So coming in kind of not knowing them and mainly knowing their size, what do you think will happen starting off in the ring?
It's with their size, and they train for short bursts of intensity. They, you know, from a lifting perspective, and mentally prepared for that. Using and carrying that size of somebody around a boxing ring. I mean, you know yourself, Charlie. You've boxed.
Yep.
You know how hard it is. That stamina that's involved. That ability to breathe correctly as you're going through the rounds, with taking punches. Their flexibility isn't going to be great. So I think manoeuvring that amount of weight and size and muscle around the ring effectively is going to be hard. Don't get me wrong, I think it'll be exciting for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And after 30 seconds, you're going to see two very, very big men swinging for the trees.
Yeah.
Very, very unfit for that type of sport. Don't get me wrong, what they do, they are very fit, but it's a totally different world. It's using your body in a different way. And like I say, a lot of boxing is actually down to breathing. It's that lung capacity, and they're not going to have that because of their size.
Yeah.
You know, I think for what you're going to get for 30 seconds, it's not necessarily them doing it that is a bugbear for me. Same with this, you know, these fantasy fights that these YouTubers have.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd be ranting about that in the gym when we
Yeah. No, I'm right with you.
Yeah, and I'm all for anybody getting in a boxing ring. It's just what follows it.
Yeah.
And they get out of it that I have issues with.
Yeah. See, what I find interesting about these two is, do you know Eddie Hall was an Olympic swimmer? Well, he wasn't an Olympic swimmer, but he was on the Olympic team.
Yeah, he was
multiple world records in swimming, and he still puts down ridiculous swimming times. But obviously, I've coached before, and every time I've had a swimmer come into the boxing, and I'd say, "Are you fit?" and they go, "I'm a swimmer." I go, "You're not fit," because swimming just does not cross over into boxing at all. There's just no land fit and sea fit. So I think Eddie's obviously going to have the advantage of the flexibility. He can still go palms to floor, which is great. He's definitely got flexibility over Thor, but it comes down to kind of 6'4" guy who's, what is he, like 50 kilograms lighter than Hafthor Bjornson? Yeah,
there's a big size. Even though he's huge himself, there's a big size difference.
Like 6'4" and about 180 kilograms. And then you've got Thor, he's 205 kilograms, I think. But that's a big weight difference. That's a big weight difference.
The weight difference to me is not really an issue, because if you look at David Hay, Value-Up, for example, Value-Up was 7 foot. You know, David Hay was a cruiserweight at the time. He was, or very, very small heavyweight.
Yeah.
And Value-Up, for such a big man, he wasn't a big muscling man. He was just a big set man.
Big. Yeah.
He was just big, and I think he had a bit of flexibility, and he had a good boxing style, and he actually had a bit of stamina because again, he wasn't the best. He did a great deal. He was just a big lump. But the size difference to me is not necessarily the issue. I think here. I think anybody any size, if you get caught on that chin, you're going down.
That's the thing about them two. Any punch from either of them will have the potential to put either of them. It'll have a potential to break their neck at their size.
Yeah, of course it will. I mean, a lot of it's about timing, a lot of it's about hitting that right sweet spot, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, if one of those two lands, but I don't think with those two and being so big, I don't think it would actually be a heavy punch that would effectively end that contest.
No.
It would purely be down to their fitness.
See, what I think will be the major defining difference is Eddie Hall won 2017 Strongman. He retired and he says, I want to strip weight. And ever since then, he's been stripping body fat. He's lost some muscle. He's been working on his cardio. So that's like 3 years he's been working on cardio and trying to build himself back up. And the toll that strongman takes on your body is crazy. Now, Thor has said that he wants to come for 2021 because he's training for the Arnold Classic. He said he would skip World's Strongest Man 21 in order to train for this boxing match. But I actually think Thor has failed to reach his potential as a strongman multiple times because he's not willing to get rid of his abs. You know, he doesn't like having a belly. He doesn't like the power belly. He likes to look in shape. And I think he would have won Strongest Man much earlier if he was willing to sacrifice the looks. So do I now think that he's coming into a secondary sport where he's purely chasing money? Is he going to be willing to strip years worth of muscle and years worth of strength for the sake of a boxing match? Whereas Eddie Hall's been boxing the whole time, you know? So I'm like, there comes that element where I'm like, what sacrifices are either of these willing to make, you know? And I think if Hall's ego gets in the way, is that going to be able to keep up with the athleticism of Eddie Hall that he's been building for 3 years?
No, I'd agree. I think Eddie Hall's in a far better position. I think and Eddie Hall, you're right, has been training to a certain extent more kind of boxer size type, adding it into his fitness regime for a long time. And you're right, and Eddie Hall, you can see differences between when he was competing in strongman in terms of the size, the belly, as you put it, add that strength. And he did strip down, and he stripped down well, and he stripped down a lot as well in terms of pounds, in terms of weight. And you're right, and I think he loves the sport, and he has been training from a boxer size thing. But again, that track, and he's done a little bit of sparring. I've seen a little bit of sparring with very small men. You know what I mean? So he's getting that element of it. It's a different world, though, isn't it? From boxer size going to a ring. Did you
ever see his sparring with Huey Fury?
I've seen a few where he's been sparring around, and these guys are sparring. They're going light as well. They're going light on him. Smaller guys going light on him. Yeah. And going back to Thor, I think you're right. I think it is all about money. Is he going to be able to transition? I've seen a couple of pad sessions, and I think one, he's got to have the right coaching in place. I think he had a guy on the pads with him who don't know where he learned to do pads. So that worries me. I think, is he going to have that ability to transition in such a short space of time? No, he's not. You're right, and I think Eddie Hall mentally is prepared for it better. I think he understands the sport a bit more. He's got a big passion for the sport, which will leave him in good stead, I think, to understand how to get into the best shape to do this. I think it'd be easy for Eddie Hall against Thor, to be fair. I think he'd have the right people around him to get him through it. And I think he would just ride a very, very short initial wave from the bigger man and then end it easily purely because of his opponent will be gassed out and not have the ability to keep his arms up.
What do you think about kind of the mentality behind it? So from your experience, Eddie Hall is obviously he's a fighter. He used to work as a doorman. I mean, I think he was like 17 and he had a whole staff of doormen working under him. He's got the scar in his eye where he's got his face slashed with a Stanley knife. You know, he's come from a tough fighting background. How much of an influence do you think that'll have when he gets in the ring versus someone who necessarily hasn't had that kind of fighting upbringing?
A lot. It gives you the ability to bite down. It gives you that bottle. Boxing is a lot about bottle. You could be the most talented person in the world, You could be flashy, you could be a great technician, but unless you've got bottle to go in there and get punched on the nose, everything changes. As soon as you get punched on the nose, everything changes.
Yeah.
When I see those people, I've probably said it to you, when I see those people, especially those youngsters that come through into my gym, and look good on the pads, and then I put them in the pad and say, this is what's going to make or break. This is what's going to tell you whether you want to carry on in this sport.
Yeah.
And when and if they get punched on the nose, and that split second they decide, this is for me, this isn't for me, and it could be that kind of situation. Yeah. You know, Thor might get with smallish gloves on, no head guard or whatever. If they're using head guards or whatever, you get a pop on the end of that nose. Doesn't matter how big you are. Yeah. Yeah. And Eddie Hall got through that through his, I don't know the background of Thor, I don't know if he's done anything like that, but Eddie Hall has been in a lot of scrapes, and you can see in his upbringing, where from and being on the door and stuff like that. It does instill that fighting spirit into you, I suppose, which again is an advantage for him over the Thor.
I think we've both seen it 100 times as well, where you throw someone in the ring who's absolutely flawless, and that you think you've got a champion in the making, and then as soon as they get hit, they want to get out again. You know, it's one of the biggest nightmares you have is you try and get people in the ring nice and early to get them used to it. But some people, you put them in too early, it puts them off the sport completely. But what you mentioned,
we're different. We're totally different breed. You've got to have something in you to be able to do a sport like that. Yeah. You know, and it is that you've got to have that fighting spirit, which gives me that ability to get past that, smack on the nose and crack on. Yeah. And Eddie Hall certainly will have that. Certainly will have that.
So what's your thoughts on head guards? I know you mentioned them briefly there, but do you think they'll be wearing head guards and treating it more like a white collar bout? Or do you think it'll be better if they went down the more professional route and went 10-ounce gloves, no head guards, 3-minute rounds?
It's a difficult one for me. I think I'd like it to go, if they're going to do head guards, that's fine. I think what you've got to understand is head guards are quite restrictive. I think it can, unless you've got your breathing right and you've got that ability to breathe under, you know, when someone's throwing punches at you, but also secondly to that, ability to have something that's restriction on your head. And a lot of people struggle with that with head guards. Is kind of it's there as a restriction, and their breathing isn't right. For two guys who are that big, who are going to have to be 100% getting their breathing right, that may be an additional restriction. Plus, how are you going to get head guards big enough to fit them? I think there's a lot of compelling arguments for head guards, and there's a lot of compelling arguments not to have head guards. I mean, when you look at amateur boxing, they say, you know, schoolboys, schoolgirls, juniors, or up to your 19th year as a senior, you wear head guards, and females continue to wear head guards in the amateur game. What they suggest is that it prevents cuts a lot as well, but it's kind of knocking feature of your head. But then the arguments again say, well, you know, your head still moves, it's still being knocked. Does it prevent cuts? I would say, as soon as you take those head guards off, that safety net's gone and your head's going a little bit more. I don't think it's going to make much difference between what they wear. What I'd like to see, I think, if anything, is probably no head guards, but bigger gloves. Bigger gloves. No smaller than a 12-ounce glove for me. For them, I would probably even say they go high gloves and wear 14, 16 ounces just to pad that impact a little bit. I think. I mean, let's face it. To be honest with you, it's a glorified spar. It is what it is. You know, in a sparring, in a training kind of environment, you'll wear 14, 16-ounce gloves. I think 8-ounce gloves on 10-ounce gloves on men as big as that. Don't see the need. So I think bigger gloves, but no head guards.
See, what I find interesting, because I mean, this is I'm not sure if you're familiar with Gary Turner. He's a friend of Steve's, Steve Murray, who obviously coaches with yourself at Marden. He introduced me to him, and he's doing his PhD in concussive brain trauma. And universally, we can see that bigger gloves and head guards actually increase brain damage. They increase concussive trauma, but they do reduce cutting and they do reduce, you know, bruising, but they actually increase the rattle in the brain. But all I see when you think of guys that big, the main difference I see with a head guard is they're probably not going to notice a difference in terms of concussive trauma, because I think they're so big, the power they're going to have behind these punches is not going to be stopped, magnified, or changed by a head guard. But what I do see is the change that a head guard makes on people's willingness to get punched in the head. That when I see people wear head guards, because you can't see anywhere, you see people lower their hands, they're more willing to take shots on the forehead, And Eddie Hall already is boxing with that Philly shell, which I can rant about for hours on end, with this stupid low arm trying to get the Floyd Mayweather look. And I think if you've got a guy getting caught with shots like that, the last thing you need is something that's going to promote wanting to get punched in the head at the end of the day, which is from my experience what I see head guards do. I don't see them being that much of a benefit to anyone's safety, but it does help stop a couple of black eyes at most.
It does, and I think you're right. When you got a head guard on, you tend to defend with your head.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, especially for those who haven't kind of transitioned from non-head guards to head guards.
Yeah.
I think because when you transition from non to head guards, then you still kind of have that same movement. When you start with head guards, in a lot of cases you do lead with your head. A good example was in the Olympics when they stopped using head guards for the seniors, cuts. There's loads of cuts because they've moved from head guards to no head guards. Still think they can leave the head there because the head guard's not gonna protect them in any way, and just loads and loads of cuts. Head flashes because when you're on head guards and you spar and you're head to head a lot of the time because you think you have that protection from cuts. When that's gone and they didn't change their style, there was loads of cuts. That happened because of that, and I think you're right. And I think head guards give you that mentality that actually got a little bit more protection there. But being hit by those size men, head guards not going to do anything for you.
See, one thing I would love to see is instead of doing 3-minute rounds, as if they did 2-minute rounds, because I think when you're that big, I think that last minute they're going to be blowing out their hoop anyway. And I think a lot of people when they move from amateurs to pros get a bit of a shock, or they move to the elites and they start doing threes, you get quite a shock because that extra minute is a massive difference. So I'm like, what if they tried it with a 2-minute round rather than a 3-minute round? Do you think that would make much of a difference on them gassing out?
Potentially. I think you're right to your point about moving from twos to threes. It's huge. When you look at amateur boxers, for example, when they're in normal club shows, a lot of them, they'll box a 2-minute round. When you go into the championships, you'll go to a 3-minute round. The pace of the bout is different. You have to change your style because it's not all about phonetic punching. You've got to be a little bit more pro-like and pick your shots and wait your time. And I think with two men like that, I think 2 minutes is too much. I don't even go down like, well, let's do 5 1-minute rounds. To me, it's not, like I said before, I touched on this point before, it's not going to be a head punch this bout. It's going to be, their body's being able to take that the work that their body's putting in. The strain on their hearts, for example, men that big, that's the worry for me. It's the strain on their heart, you know what I mean? Can that take that intense exercise that they're doing, that cardio work that they're doing within the ring? I think the shorter the rounds, the better. I would even argue that 2 minutes is going to be too much for them. I would say do short bursts because they're used to intense short bursts. You do like a 5 1-minute round. Something like that,
So if you were Eddie's coach and you've got Eddie Hall coming to your gym, what would you be focusing your training on, getting ready? You've got a year and a half to get him ready for this. What would be the focus of the training that you're bringing in for Eddie Hall?
Flexibility. One, I think they're going to be very, very stiff when they are throwing punches. I think the movement, the body movement, how can a big guy who's that huge, how can he move from the waist? How can he move from punches? How can he roll? How can he slip? How can he add his boxing ability to his long arms? Using that as an advantage. Although he's fighting someone who's probably got arms a mile longer than he has. And I think that's even in a year for people that size, it's going to be hard to train them. I think from a boxing perspective, I just think the flexibility, the lung capacity, and the fitness to get through those rounds, and try not to get hit. Defense more than anything, I think. I think that's what you need to do. I think Eddie Hall, like I say, is in a far better position than Thor.
So what would you do with Thor then? If Thor was coming in and you're trying to get Thor ready to beat Eddie?
The absolute basics. I would do with him what I do with like a 10-year-old kid coming through the door. The absolute basics. And then after you've got that basics and you've got that stamina, you've got that ability to get through rounds with throwing punches and moving your head. Then with him, it's all about, okay, how am I going to use my size in this? Because he can go through 5 3-minute rounds, he can go through 12 3-minute rounds and make it so Eddie Hall gets nowhere near him. I mean, size, he's got everything in terms of advantage that way, and physicality to win something like that relatively easy. So then it's kind of changing his style. Okay, I'm going to use my jab all night, and I don't even have to throw another punch because he's not going to get through that. But it depends how they want to do. It's obviously they're obviously going to want some excitement in it. They're obviously going to want some dramatic finish where there's a great big huge haymaker coming from somewhere.
Have you seen any of Thor's sparring footage?
I've not seen this. Yes, I have.
He spends a whole fight with that matador sticking the arm out, trying to hold someone back. And I'm like, well, if he's got that instinctually in him where he's trying to constantly keep someone at that range, the guy he was sparring, he didn't look the most in shape himself. I'm not sure if that would apply to someone who's of a similar weight, of a decent capacity in their boxing. But holding that arm out like that, if you're training Eddie Hall, like you say, with the rolls and the slips and able to get under that arm, is Thor going to be fast enough to move it back in again? You see it all the time where you see boxers holding their arm out, trying to get the range. Someone just rolls under it. Povetkin versus Price, prime example. Povetkin just rolls under constantly and just keeps whacking him with those lead hooks. You know, is he going to be able to train that speed in a year and a half to be able to get rid of that bad habit?
You will improve it to a certain extent, I think. But when and I don't think he's necessarily using it as a rangefinder. He's using it to keep an opponent from hitting him. It's fact, when you look at his sparring, it's in fear. You can see the fear of someone hitting him, even someone who was massively a lot smaller. He didn't want to take any shots, so he's just prodding that arm out and keeping that arm out, because it's not necessarily to tee up another shot coming; it's to keep someone away from hitting him. So you can see that fear element in sparring straight away. You can see his face, when he's doing it. And you're right, and I think you can change that. You can change, I say, once you get used to having punches thrown to you and used to being punched on the nose, then you can relax a little bit and you can use that arm being stuck out as a lead shot, as a range, be more effective. But again, when you're a fighter who fights, because with him you'd have to use his advantage of his size, which generally means he'd also have to fight on the back foot. Someone who's that size is not going to have the mobility to be able to fight on the back foot. Where Eddie Hall, on the other hand, he's just going to be coming forward. He's going to be like a Tyson bobbing and weaving, trying to get past this big lead hand. And throw those big big backhands over the top to try and hit him. That's how it will actually go. But Thor is not going to be able to box on the back foot and have any kind of agility and movement to keep anyone like Eddie Hall's size. So again, styles wise, it's going to match Eddie Hall, but again with Eddie Hall, he's not going to have that good ability to move forward quickly.
So what's funny is naturally when people come into boxing, they move backwards constantly. Most people are moving backwards to get away from punches, despite the fact that boxing backwards is much harder than boxing forwards. Whereas very few people come forwards, and boxing forwards is much easier, and that's the position you want to be in, pushing someone back. It's interesting how you get it's always the opposite. The easier thing to do is actually the harder thing to get good at. So I see what you're saying, that Thor's going to have to constantly fight off that back foot. But it's kind of like the Fury Wilder. It took Fury getting knocked on his backside in the 12th to work out that Wilder couldn't fight on his back foot. And he was just that aggressive fighter the whole way through the second fight. He just kept pushing forwards. Is it going to be a similar situation seeing Tyson in the ring? That pushing forwards constantly against a taller fighter just to see if he can knock him off balance. Because fighting backwards is not an easy task. So I think you're right. If Eddie Hall can work that out, he's in for a winner.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. And I think it depends on the opponent. If you're a come forward fighter, if you look at amateur fighting and like these GB level fighters, for example, look at the GB level fighter. Not one of those GB level fighters is a come forward fighter and pressure fighter. They're all boxers on the back foot. Yeah, they can do both, but if you're a back foot fighter, you've got to be able to move well. You've got to be able to move your opponent off guard. So if you've got a forward fighter who's coming through, who's bobbing and weaving, trying to throw shots on you, if you're a good elite fighter who's got a bit of flash and style, you just spin off and you just go back onto your back foot boxing.
Yeah.
And that's where the frustration of your opponent who can't actually do anything with you because when they're trying to come through. Thor's not going to have that. He's not going to have that. He's literally going to be on the back foot trying to keep someone who's coming forward away from hitting him. He's not going to have the ability to pivot. He's not going to be able to move direction quickly.
Yeah.
So if he changes that and starts coming forward, Eddie Hall's not then going to be able to change his style of going back because that's not in his locker either. So you're literally just going to have two big men meet in the ring, cuddling. It's effectively because we're just going to smear each other's work. They're not going to be able to stand back. They're not going to have the knowledge to change pace or to change direction or to change their game plan. So you're just going to have two men in the middle of the ring literally cuddling until the fight's over. Is effectively what you get.
And that's why styles make fights, isn't it? You see a lot of these so-called super fights. We saw it with Mayweather versus Pacquiao. We saw it with, Mayweather versus McGregor, where it just ends up where you've got two people who are too similar and they just have to spend the whole night cuddling into each other. But I think it also comes down to coaching, because in amateurs, obviously, fighting off your front foot is massively favoured. The coaches don't tend to prefer it, at least when you're getting scored. You don't seem to get scored as well fighting off the back foot as you do with your aggression and your rate of punches. So I think if either of them are working with a coach that is trying to get them to give that flashy boxing, that Loma, that matrix, that footwork style, is something that can pay off in such a short period of time, and they're going to be able to learn how to do that. Pivots, how to move off the ropes, how to change angles, how to switch, switch positions, things like that. It's also whether either of them are any good at holding their ground, keeping their form, or are they going to unfold like a cheap cardboard box, Yeah,
I don't think you'll be able to. I don't think you can really teach that style in a short space of time. I think you generally see these kind of boxers who transition into that type of style. Some start that way. And they do, but generally from a young age where they've got that mobility, they've got that flexibility, and they can move. That's how they learn. Generally what I do, you learn the basics of boxing first of all, then you start adding your own personality into your style, the flash and the move. You couldn't teach two big blokes like that, I don't think. Eddie Hall, potentially, he's already got that kind of that lead arm down type thing rolling over the shoulder, so he's got a little bit about him.
And he's fast as well. His punches are fast, especially for someone who's 170 odd kilo. He can throw some real speed, but he's got some habits. Dropping the hands when he throws a hook. You'll flash the arm out when he throws a jab. When he rolls, he sticks his chin up. It's those little things where it's like, I think I see what you're saying. We're getting gassed, but I do think it could come down to. Knocking someone out is hard. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, just how hard it is to knock someone out. We're so used to seeing these top level boxers. But if you're getting hit by someone like AJ, this is a guy who spends, 6 hours a day getting knockout power punches every single day for 10 years of his life. He's been boxing since 18. So when you see a Joshua knockout, you think it's easy, but it's really tough to knock someone out, no matter what your size. So I think there's that element to it, the skill, but does one lucky shot, one wild throw on someone making the mistake of sticking his chin out, does that put them on their arse? Does that finish the fight? And it's dangerous as well. I think that's the thing that a lot of people forget, is getting knocked out is really not good for you. It's really, really bad to get knocked out. So at their size, what is going to be the effect of that kind of hit,
their size, their pure size also may have the size of their necks, the size of their legs. When you get hit, one of the first thing that goes is your legs.
Yes, yeah.
Do they have the ability, because of their size, to cushion that shot a lot more? Is it going to have the same effect as obviously if one of those big men hit a lot smaller man?
You die.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're big men.
Yeah.
It may just be the equivalent of two super middleweights, one getting knocked out by the other one. Potentially, I don't know, but I think. But I think the gassing out and the tiredness is going to put them in a position to take a shot. For me, for example, with Thor, he's nearly 7 foot guy, or over 7 foot, keeping his hands up. Do you know what I mean? Keeping those hands up.
Just holding them is going to be tough.
Holding them. Whilst throwing shots, whilst moving around, whilst breathing, right? Eventually, after a very short space of time, those hands are going to start dropping. Going to start dropping, and that's where his tiredness comes in.
Yeah.
And when you're tired and you don't have the ability to protect yourself or defend yourself, that's when that shot's going to come in.
Yeah.
And potentially do that damage.
Yeah.
That's where I think it will happen. I don't get me wrong, it's not going to go to a draw. It's not going to go to a points. It's going to go to probably starting the fight with their own style, with their own game planning.
Yeah.
And then within a minute, it's going to be
swinging for the hill. Yeah.
Forward. I'm just going to try and end this now because I'm absolutely knackered.
Did you watch either of the KSI versus Logan Paul, the YouTubers fight?
So if you were in the gym at the time, you would have obviously heard me ranting and raving on about it. Anyone that would hear. And I was funny. I was listening to something the other day on the radio because I think it's that KSI's got a song in the charts.
Right.
They were doing an interview with him, and in the way they announced him was YouTube star, rapper, and boxer. And I nearly pulled the car over and started shouting at the radio.
So what's your thoughts about these, celebrity fights, these online super fights?
Do you know what gets me about it?
What?
Right? What gets me about it is they do a bit of training. They get to a standard where, they can do one of these. And I've got an issue with charity boxing as well. We've got where they can then do this charity fight or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then call themselves a boxer after it. And what annoyed me before was, with the KSI thing, what annoyed me was they did it as an official professional boxer.
Yeah.
Right? So if you think of the life of a professional boxer, they've gone through the hardship of being an amateur for years and years and years. They've worked on their craft. They've trained day in, day out for years and years to get to the position where, I can actually start to maybe earn a little bit of money now.
Yeah.
And then they move to a professional boxer.
Yeah.
They're training 3 times a day. They're eating, ridiculous food from a nutritional perspective to stay on weight.
Yeah.
Putting their bodies through extreme pain and pressure.
Yeah.
And then what you do is you then got the additional pressure of then, okay, now I've got my professional contract. I've now got to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Okay? So they're on a show. They've got to sell tickets. They're probably on a ticket deal where the first 50 tickets they sell, they don't get a penny from.
Yeah.
Those 50 tickets, they pay for your opponent. They pay for the promoter. They pay for the manager. They pay for everything that goes with that. If they then lucky enough to sell more than 50 tickets, they then may start taking some money. But from that, you've then got to pay your trainer. You've got to pay this. You've got to pay that. So, so effectively, a lot of these young pros who have spent years and years and years and years getting to that position are effectively fighting for free or paying to fight.
Yeah.
Then you've got 2 guys that are coming in who are on YouTube from just being, with respect to them, just they're being on YouTube. They're basically entertainment for kids.
Yeah.
Then you've got these 2 guys come in and they've got this massive fun fair around it. They've got a top promoter on it. Eddie Hearn, should.
Yeah.
Head in shame for this.
Yeah.
And I lost a lot of respect. Lost a lot of respect for that promoter because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got millions and millions of pounds on a pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
Yeah, for these 2 guys who couldn't slap their own shadow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they call themselves boxers, and it was a disgrace watching it. And you've got all these pro boxers that are thinking.
Yeah, pro boxers on the undercard. That's what I found mad. You have undercard, top level, national elite level boxers on the undercard for 2 YouTubers.
We did, and that was Billy Joe Saunders.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. It was someone who was a big name.
Yeah, sold out for me, and I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, and I know people will be listening to this and thinking, well, you know what I mean. You can't deny people from getting paid a lot of money. Yeah, you can't. But it's a slap in the face for those people who work so hard, effectively paying for free. And unless they're never, ever going to see that kind of money, then you've got these 2 jokers, because they gob off on each other, get in the ring and it was pathetic. And then they're getting paid millions and millions and millions of pounds, and the promoters getting paid millions and millions. Because you've got all these parents that are getting bugged by their kids who watch them on YouTube saying, Dad, can you spend 20 quid so I can wait up until 4 in the morning and watch this? And then people, because I had this debate a lot online, and everyone's saying, but it's getting the interest in the kids to come boxing. I had no spike in the amount of people that came to my gym because of that. my existing fighters, even my existing juniors, said, "Oh, are you going to watch this KSI?" I'm like, "No." I said, "Oh, neither am I, because it's ridiculous."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of, I didn't see any positive that it had, and then you've still got them saying, "Oh yeah, now." I think it was like KSI said, "Oh yeah, I've got a style which is like Floyd Mayweather and Tyson Fury." Because you have any two extreme differences in styles, and it's like you actually know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're just spouting stuff that you've got no idea what you're talking about. And that's what frustrates me about these fantasy matchups. Similar to the Eddie Hall and the Thor thing. Yeah. This will probably be a pay-per-view event. People will probably pay lots of money just to see a spectacle for 30 seconds, and they're going to get paid millions of pounds. Then you've got your everyday man busting his ass in the pros, and we're thinking, what's the point? What is the point of me even bothering? Because I'm not going to get to that stage in my career when I'm going to earn all this money, even though they couldn't lace my boots in terms of what they're doing. That's what gets me about it. I take my hat off to anybody who gets in the ring, because it is hard. Same with these charity stuff as well. I've got I have a bugbear about that too.
Yeah. So I think there's a side of me that I think I see the two things slightly different between the Logan Paul and the Eddie versus Thor, because I think anything that brings eyes on the sport is a good thing, but also such as when I worked in the kitchens, you've got to earn your stripes before you can call yourself a chef. You know, if you're calling yourself a chef and you've not got the record in your CV, you're going to get flack for it. Same as I've got a big issue. I've had to pay God knows how many thousands of pounds to get my qualifications in nutrition. I've got many friends who are nutritionists as well, and dietitians. And nutritionist is not a protected title. So you spend £50,000 on your qualifications, and then you get, 19-year-old Dave from the block who did a 2-week nutrition course and is calling himself a nutritionist. So I absolutely get when you've put in that work and built your way up to have someone else nick your title and claim the glory for it. However, when it comes to like Eddie versus Thor, I think it brings back somewhat some of the pre-Queensby rules glory of fighting in a way. Like when you would have the come one, come all fighters, your Jack Dempsey's traveling on the railroad, I'll fight anyone, any weight. They were just doing it for money. It's like the early days of what built boxing was, people like Charles Sullivan going down the dockyards in New York, going, come one, come all, I'll fight all of you. Doesn't matter your weight. He would give away £100 in weight and still win. And I do love that, classic, just pure adrenaline, testosterone-filled male ignorance of, I can have you, and people want to pay to see it. I think the issue I have, though, is the reflection that it gives of boxing as being I don't like you and I'm going to fight you, which is kind of anti-boxing. I think this is the issue I have. Obviously, I work for a magazine called Fighters Only, and we do MMA. And the MMA community and the boxing community do have a lot of differences. With MMA, I think being a lot more, WWE. I don't like you. We're going to get into a Twitter battle, go backwards and forwards, and then we're going to fight in the ring. And it's very egoic. Whereas boxing, before you fight someone, you're hanging out with them in the green room out back, chatting to who's going to be your opponent. I still remember my first fight, literally stood next to and chatting to the guy I was going to go get in the ring with later. Yeah. And then you hug and make friends after. And that's the reality of boxing. It's a very, gentlemanly, very respectful sport. So I think, if anything, although it's bringing more eyes onto the sport, having these top level names dragging people in, I don't think they're the people that are really going to take to the sport. They're not the people who are going to get involved and actively get involved in the boxing community, because it's not like that, and it's kind of a disappointment for a lot of people to see that as well, I think. I
think you're right. I think your boxing purists are different. I agree to a point now in terms of the gentleman's sport. Back in the old day, there wasn't that to and fro. And there was a little bit with Ali, for example. Ali used to watch. Lee was kind of like the first. Yeah, he was kind of the one that kind of created this for me in the public eye, certainly. Yeah. You see it a lot, though. Obviously, now you still get people, everything on social media, particularly where they're calling each other out on social media, and it goes to a point. And again, that's just generating PR. That's generating this money. Yeah. Boxing is no longer, professional boxing is no longer a sport. It's a business.
Yeah.
I get that. I do
it's a
get
business first and a sport second, isn't it?
It is, and I get it. But I think you've got to conduct your business in the right way. Still, you're impressionable. You don't want. I don't like kids being brought into the ring because they saw two YouTubers having a spat. And you're thinking, it's easy to get in. They can do it. It's easy. They've trained a little bit. They can have a fight. They can earn loads of money or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I don't agree with that. I used to prefer it when kids used to come in the gym because they'd watch Rocky.
Yeah.
That's it looks great. I like the sport. I mean, that's kind of what I like. But you see it more and more now, and you see it where you've had a couple of people, we've had a couple of fights as a professional calling out world champions.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't like that about the sport. I don't like that about the sport. It is bravado, but it's all generating money. It's all generating PR. It's generating the interest for that fight. But then what you've got to remember is these people that are doing it and going off, they're setting themselves onto a pedestal where when they get beat, no one's going to catch them coming down. Yeah. Because when they start gobbing off and doing it, no one's going to listen to them. Everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's a joke."
Well, yeah, Wilder. I can't see. They had this media circus around Deontay Wilder before the Fury rematch, and I've got endless amounts of thoughts of Wilder as a boxer. I like him as a bloke, but as a boxer, I think he's talentless. He's got an amazing right hand because he commits every single. He commits every single gram of his body to one Hail Mary punch. And if it lands, he only needs to be perfect for 1 second and he's won the fight. But if you actually look at his record, he's only fought unranked fighters. If you look at anybody, he's only fought 3 boxers who are worth anything. He's fought Dominic Breazeale, he'd be knocked out in about 12 seconds because he got that Hail Mary punch in immediately. He got it in nice and early. He's fought Ortiz, who's in his mid-40s, got in the ring the first time with flu and won pretty much every single round. Got in the second time, won pretty much every single round, and then he got the Hail Mary punch. But then he had Fury, who destroyed him in the first fight. I think it was criminal to call that a draw. But, I'll rant about that another time. But he gave that Hail Mary punch and it wasn't enough. And then you get Fury coming in a second time, absolutely decimates him. But this time when Wilder's going on saying, I was weighed down, my jacket was too heavy, he's coming out with all these, nobody's listening to him anymore because he got absolutely destroyed and now nobody's interested in hearing what he has to say. And I think there's going to be a point where we've got these big YouTube fights, we've got these big name charity fights, the white collar fights. I think they've got a lifespan because people are going to start seeing through what is essentially the bollocks of it pretty quick. I think, the consumer is far more educated than they get credit for. And I do think these fights, although in the short term, I think it's great for bringing attention to boxing. I think, I chat to a lot of friends who've never watched boxing before. And yet, they would watch the YouTuber fight and they'll go, oh, now I want to watch a proper fight. And they would buy the Ruiz-Joshua pay-per-view, or they would go out and watch it, or they would have a viewing party, or because they realize, oh, actually, this is quite good. I can get into this. And you start having people slowly trickling in to go into the, what ours is the Fed Brewery, the local level pros, because they've got a taste for it. I think that's good. But I do think it's got a shelf life. I don't see this long term being something that's going to bring a massive amount of positive PR to the sport. I don't think, like you say, I don't think it's going to attract many kids into boxing. I think it'll get them watching it for a little bit, but I just think it will die off, and what's a way that we can try and get these people to promote the sport in a positive way? Is it get rid of the head guards, bring in 3-minute rounds and make them follow the same regulations that every other boxer has to follow? Because I've got a big issue with people who shortcut, like you say, you've got the boxer who's worked from the ground up. He's done the amateur ranks. He's paid to have a pro career in his early stages. Most people don't know that 95% of pro boxers are on a pretty low wage. They're living pretty standard lives to get beaten up on a regular basis. It's only the top 5% that get the money. And it's those people who are building the sport for these richies to come in and the YouTubers to come in and skip every single step along the way. Should there be, should you have to have a minimum amount of fights before you can get your pro card? What are your thoughts on building up before you get a pro card? Do you think there should be more prerequisites?
And this is the thing as well that's annoying. If you're an amateur boxer, you've got to go through an interview with the board.
Yeah.
To prove that, and often sometimes you need to have a reference from the regional secretary, for example, of the amateur game to kind of say, they're good enough, they can hold their own.
Yeah.
And then you've got these 2 guys who've trained for 6 months.
Yeah.
Get pro license.
Yeah.
And you're right, and I think they've got to earn their stripes to be able to. They were shifted literally to the echelons of the sport pay-per-view event.
Yeah.
The world are watching.
Yeah. Main card.
That happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? Why they were top of the bill, and then you had co-support one of the top 3 super middleweights in the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. If you want to do it, let them do some kind of fantasy exhibition.
Yeah.
Do an exhibition.
Yeah.
At the start of the show or in the interval of a professional show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do that. Why stick it? Why stick it to the top of the bill of a worldwide pay-per-view event?
When it comes down to money, doesn't it?
Does it? It's just a smack in the face of those who work so hard, and then they think, "What's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point?" You know what I mean? These promoters out of money. You know what I mean? I'm never going to get that.
Yeah.
Do what I would work with my ass off. I'm never going to get that. It's just that's the biggest thing to me. That is what's wrong with this type of matchup. It's a fantasy matchup.
Yeah. So sum up then. You know, we've got Thor versus Eddie. What do you see happening? What are you going to put your money on? What's your prediction for Thor versus Eddie?
I think it'll happen. I think there's too much money in generating interest in it now. I think one of the promoters will snap it up. It'll be a pay-per-view event.
Yep.
People will pay 20 odd quid.
Yep.
There'll be a lot of build-up, and it's probably going to last 35 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it will. Eddie Hall will win it because the bigger man is just going to, like I say, I don't think he's going to improve much from where he is now.
Yep.
It'll be gassed after 30 seconds.
Yep.
Eddie Hall will just put it on him, and then.
What are you saying?
Stopped.
A KO?
He'll get stopped on his feet. Not a KO. Stopped on his feet.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I see it going a little longer. I think. Yeah, I think I see Eddie winning, but I see it maybe a few rounds first. I do think Thor being so tall, if he can stick his arms out long enough and he can keep him back long enough, I could see Thor maybe making it 3-4 rounds. And then I see Eddie just laying on him and getting the stoppage. I really do. I can't see any other outcome for it because I think both of them will be far too gassed to lay it on and get any kind of knockout. I definitely don't see it going down to scorecards. There's no way it'll last that long. Yeah,
for me, I hope they just keep it away from a normal boxing event. I hope they don't mix it with actual professional boxers. I hope it is. I hope they just do it and it's a kind of exhibition spectacle. Yeah, it's where I'd like to see it. Do you know
that's what they're doing with Tyson, isn't it? Because Tyson was coming back for an exhibition.
There's talks about him doing a charity exhibition.
But now he's fighting Holyfield again, apparently.
Or Holyfield. They wouldn't. They at that age they wouldn't be allowed to have. They wouldn't get a license from a. Yeah. You know, if you've got Nevada State Boxing Commission handing out licenses to those two at 53 years old, there's something wrong.
How old was Foreman when he made his comeback?
He was 40s. I think it was 45. Right. But I think it was 45 when he won the world title again. Yeah. But he had a few warm-up fights first. He didn't go straight into that. You know what I mean? So, you know, these guys are 53. They've been out of the game for years. Yeah. You know, and it's like, again, they're then setting a precedent in terms of just giving out licenses willy-nilly to people without thinking of the effects that it would have. That means anybody can come back. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're going to have people to... What's the cut-off then? Yeah. Can you allow someone who's 60, 70 years old to come back and have a fight? Yeah. You know, I think it sets a precedent. I mean, when you look at amateur boxing, you can only fight until you're 40 years old. Yeah, I think that's essentially a bit too old for me. Should there not be some rule with that in the professional ranks? Yeah. But then it then you have the argument of, well, then you look at Pacquiao who's 40, 41 now and he's still top of his game. Yeah. You know, I think you look at it maybe on an individual basis, but I just think there's got to be a cut-off. There's got to be some common sense and some kind of cut-off. Yeah. So I hope that they aren't giving their professional licenses back. Yeah. Again, if it happens, it'll be some kind of exhibition, but well governed in terms of medical care and stuff like that. Yeah. So it'll be maybe like a 3-4 round exhibition fight where they're not going up out, bigger gloves maybe, and so it's a bit more of something to raise a bit of money rather than being all about them getting paid a lot of money for doing it. Yeah. Same with Eddie Hall and Thor. I'd like it to be the case that they don't benefit. Yeah. Don't benefit from it, you know. So if it was, I'd like to see, let's do a pay-per-view event, fine. Let's stick it on national TV, fine. Make all proceeds, even purse, go to a charitable event, go to a charity, rather than them generating and earning load. Then it's less of a smack in the face for those people that do it for a living.
See, I still felt that when Mayweather McGregor, when they finished their fight and they're hugging in the ring, and they basically said, "We fooled you," to the entire audience, to the entire fan base that had watched that build. They just shoved the middle finger, and we just said, "Yeah, we managed to fool you. You know, we've been best mates the whole time." And everybody knew that as well. You know, they're doing a world tour arguing with each other. To me, I just saw that. I didn't think McGregor was going to win that fight, even if he did, because I don't think it does well for boxing. I think we all know that there can be questionable scorings. And I think, you know, the example of Fury versus Wilder 1 was a good prime example of that. You don't want a guy who's been out the ring for 2 years, who's been banned, who's been stripped of a title, to have 2.5 years out the ring, lose a bunch of weight, come in and become a world champion, you know, in his, you know, third fight after 2 or 3 ridiculously easy warm-up fights. You know, I don't think that the was it WBC? I don't think they want that. You know, they don't want people thinking they can come back after 2 years off and immediately get a title fight, because it sets a bad precedent. So I think no matter what happened in that Fury fight, unless he was going to knock him out, I don't think he was going to win it. And I said that early. I said, I don't think they're going to give him the win, even if he absolutely destroys him. Unless he knocks him out, they're not going to give him the win, because they don't want to show that for the sport. I think with McGregor, it was the same thing. You don't want some MMA fighter coming in and winning. Even if McGregor had won on points, you know, again, unless McGregor knocked out Mayweather, I don't see any way they would have let McGregor win that fight, because you don't want some MMA fighter turning up and making a spectacle of the sport. And then every other MMA fighter thinks they can move over to boxing and immediately start getting world-class fighters. You know, you see boxers move into MMA quite a lot of female boxers, because female MMA has got a larger following now than female boxing. So you got a lot of female boxers, but they're starting at the bottom. You know, they're not starting. You got Holly Holmes. You know, she started at the bottom and worked up. You know, you got a lot of these boxers moving over, but they've got to work their way up the ranks. They're not jumping straight into these title fights. So I think, I'm absolutely with you. Make it for charity. Don't slap the fans in the face.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And you talk about those boxers that go over from boxing to MMA.
Yeah,
they're just getting panned. You know, MMA is a vicious sport, and it's all about groundwork. It's all about groundwork. You know, I know a lot of MMA fighters. My stepdad is an Olympian in judo. And he trains jiu-jitsu, and he was in the LA Olympics for judo. And he'll tell you, you know, that the jiu-jitsu type of element that they've got to that style, you know, that beats a boxer every day. As soon as you're on the floor, done. If you're a boxer going into MMA, you've got to have a lucky punch. Yeah, you might win on a lucky punch, but generally, you've got to learn everything else, so you're just going to get panned. And I think it's easier from an MMA position to transition into boxing, because boxing is an element of MMA. So they've already got grounding, I suppose. At a high level, it's not going to do them any good. But the transition's easier. And you're right with the Floyd Mayweather thing. There was no way Floyd Mayweather was going to ruin his legacy. No, there was no way people were going to allow his legacy to be. I think his legacy was impacted just purely by doing it. But losing to it was never an option.
What do you think of his recent comeback? Have you seen him wanting to come back again?
Mayweather.
Yeah, he's wanting 500 million to fight again.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's spent all of his money, and now he can't.
He can't have spent all that money. I don't know if that's what I think he's one of these people that always wants to be in the limelight, and he's not going to be in the limelight unless he's actually fighting. So it's not about money. I don't think it's about money. I think he's got plenty of money. He's not daft. He's a very shrewd businessman.
Well, he didn't know what colour Bugatti he wanted, so he bought all of them.
But he's still got them. Mad. Still got them. Sell a few of them.
Not skin.
He just wants to be. He's struggling to let go, and a lot of fighters this happens to. He's struggling to let go. Could he still do a job if he came back? 100%. Because of his style, that defensive style, that ability to be elusive, that ability not to get hit. Floyd Mayweather can take many shots. Do you know what I mean? So he's still got his faculties in place.
See, I preferred Pretty Boy. I preferred him when he was pretty boy, mate. I preferred his style. I preferred him when he had a little bit more action to him. And then when he became Money Mayweather and he started getting more defense, I mean, 100%, every punch you take is taking time off your career. It's taking time off your life as well, every single punch you take. But he is he's a boxer's boxer. I still find him reasonably boring to watch when I watch him, when he's fighting Canelo Alvarez or Manny Pacquiao. He's playing safe. He's doing his typical 1-2 grab so you can't punch me back, pushing the rules right to the edge. It's very much playing it safe method of boxing, which, it wins. But I don't personally see Mayweather being the greatest of all time, not with someone like, Rocky Marciano with 50-0. I see that's far more credible, taking proper fights, balls to the wall, when men had chins made of granite and they gave everything they had, not this 1-2 hug and repeat for 12 rounds. I think
it is. I get you on that. I think for the boxing purists, I think if you see past that in terms of, it's harder for me to be a defensive fighter than it is to be an aggressive fighter. So he's the best for me. When you look at your
he's the best defensive fighter.
Yeah, when you look at your Hopkins, when you look at your Pernell Whitakers, the best ever in terms of the ability to hit and not get hit. Roll those punches, and he made Canelo. I mean, look at Canelo now, right? Yeah. He's probably pound for pound number one. Yeah. He made Canelo look amateur.
You're going to annoy some Triple G fans with that one.
You are?
You're going to annoy Triple G fans there.
Yeah. No, I think Triple G's time's gone now. I think he's on the slide.
Well, he's mid-40s as well, isn't he?
No, he's late 30s.
Late 30s? Oh, okay. I thought he was older than that.
No, he's 39 now. I think his time's been and gone. I think especially now, obviously, with the breaking boxing, he'll struggle to get back in terms of that level. Yeah. Close bouts with Canelo. Again, I still think they could have gone either way. But, but when you look at Canelo against someone like Floyd, Canelo at the top of his game at the time he boxed Floyd Mayweather. Yeah. Floyd Mayweather made it look easy.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And the ability to do that, you have to be something special.
Yeah.
Mayweather is something special for what he does.
Yeah.
But you're right, the excitement's not there. It's not like, I'm going to watch it and get excited about this. It's not going to happen.
It's just you sit down and go, well, how's he going to win this one? Probably the same way he wins it. Sit down, right, just watch it happen. I think also when he retired the last time, a lot of the trash talking started to peter out. He was one of the biggest trash talkers and media frenzy guys. And I think after the McGregor fight, there was a large break in boxing from that kind of attention, which I thought was a really good thing. I mean, I'm very anti the trash talking and showboating. You had Joshua starting to come up as Mayweather was going out with that gentleman spirit, and treating people with respect. You got Tyson Fury, who's just having a laugh, but he does still have a lot of respect for his opponents. He does speak.
He does now. I think he does now, and I think he's changed a lot, and I think he had to, because obviously when he was banned from the sport, at the time he was banned from the sport, he was just, with all due respect, off the rails. He was just an idiot. He was just and I think what that did do, because then you had Billy Joe Saunders doing the same, and I think what he was kind of playing into the hands of those people. When you look at travelling communities, for example, playing into the hands of those people who have a preconceived thought of what a traveller is like. That offensive, that what I mean, that cockiness, that slagging people, and that kind of played into that stereotype. And I think that hurt that travelling community for me, because they're not like that. No, I've got a lot of friends in the travelling community. You have the odd idiot, but you do in all communities, not just travelling communities. And I think when he came back, he changed that, and he changed his behaviour. He was a little bit more, but when he was doing it after that, it was more tongue in cheek than actually being nasty about it. And I think he's done well, and I think he's had some very good PR training. I think since he's come back to change that what people think of him, and I think that is the best thing that could have happened to Tyson Fury. Now he's an ambassador in terms of mental health, and he talks very, very eloquently. He's a very intelligent man. When he talks really well, and I think since he's come back, he's changed people's perception of him. He's got people back on his side, and you've got all this shift from Joshua, who's always been that gentleman, had that little bit of spite when he kind of when he maybe the real him came out a little bit. Obviously, he was a cash cow, he was a PR machine, but he's also very talented.
Yeah.
But then you've got Tyson Fury coming back and kind of having a little bit of that behaviour and a little bit of that when he's coming across. And I think he's built up a bigger fan base and the ability to come back from where he was a lot more. And I take my hat off to him for doing that. I'm still not a massive Tyson Fury fan in terms of his style. For me,
really? How come?
I don't know. I just think I think when he changed it with Wilder, different. I think he was a lot more forthcoming. But when you watch the fight with Klitschko, it's the most boring heavyweight fight in history.
Yeah.
You know, when you watch that, and a lot of his fights were kind of. And Klitschko was a boring fighter as well. The only time Klitschko wasn't a boring fighter when he boxed Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
And he had to put it on Joshua because if he didn't, it would have been over a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And that was the best Klitschko I've ever seen. It was better Klitschko than fought Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
By a million miles.
See, when he fought Tyson Fury, I think that's the only bet I've ever made. I made a betting account because I bet on Fury because I just knew he was going to win that fight. But I think there was an element of Klitschko in that fight where you could see he wasn't taking it seriously. You know, he wasn't training as hard as he normally did. He didn't look as in shape as he normally does. I think there was an element of Klitschko in that fight that he seemed to look like he was expecting to just walk in and win it. And I think he got a bit of a shock because nobody expected Fury to back himself as much as he did. But that was one I saw early where I think Klitschko, it was a bit like what's Rocky Balboa, where he gets in the ring and the guy just hasn't trained and he wasn't expecting Rocky to go in that much. Give 100%. He was trying to treat it like an exhibition bout. And that's how I saw Klitschko in that fight. I mean, he was champion for 10 years.
Yeah, I think he thought it was safe because it was over in Germany as well. And I think Tyson Fury mentally won that battle as well.
Yeah.
I think Klitschko couldn't move him in terms of that mental to and fro.
Yeah.
I think if you'd have had the Klitschko that came in against Anthony Joshua against Fury, could have been a different result, potentially. Yeah. I think going back to Fury, I just think I like him more now than I did before. I'm very much, you're a role model for the sport. You've got all these kids that are watching you and they think this bravado and being gobby is the way to go, and it's not for me. A lot of people have a difference of opinion to that, and I think when you're a role model in that position and you're acting like that, same as Billy Joe Saunders.
Yeah.
When he's acting like he is, I mean, he's talking about him getting banned again, and everyone slagging people off, saying, "Oh, give him a break. He was only joking." I'm sorry, but you can't joke hitting a punch bag and saying that you're hitting a woman.
Yeah.
In you can't do that. Yeah. Well, you cannot do that when you are a role model. And people are looking up to you. Yeah, he was doing it in banter. Get it? I get it. You can't do it in banter when everyone's watching you. Impressionable kids. Yep. So everyone's saying, they're just after him because he's a traveller. That's crap. It's not. Who you are. Can't do that. Wilder, when Wilder said, I'm going to kill somebody, he should have been banned on the spot.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Who was it who said, hey, if I don't kill him, it don't count?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the kind of type of sport which has always got a stigma about it.
I want a body on my record, he would always say, isn't it? I want a body on my record there.
It's crazy. And you know what I mean? And when you're in a sport that when that can actually happen, you kind of, again, we're talking and acting like that. We're just playing into the hands of those people that want this sport banned.
Yeah.
And then that's the stigma of it's a violent sport. Yeah, it's a violent sport. Of course it is. You're punching, you're getting punched.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do it, and I think you've got to be. There's that many kids that get into this sport, and I think you have to be impressionable. You've got to be the right role model for these people coming through. Yeah, some people say it'll make the sport boring. Yeah, but you're just people who want a street fight. You're the people who go to the license show and you'll think it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, I think there's a massive difference between, I don't know what the word would be, but I think there's a huge difference between boxing and violence, because I'm not at all a violent person. And I remember, I met my ex, she was doing a white collar bout. And I remember when that event started, I felt sick to my stomach watching it. It was like when you're watching someone getting kicked in outside a club. It was all, the crowd was screaming like animals. There was fights breaking out inside the crowd, and they were just endorsing, beating the living daylights out of each other, which I don't personally see as a sport. But how can you say that it's not violent when you're literally getting in the ring and punching each other's block off, trying to do as much damage as you can to each other? It's a hard line to draw. But I see what you're saying about trying to find role models, and I think, you know, luckily Eddie and Thor do seem to be coming at the sport with quite a lot of respect. You know, they're treating each other with respect. They're not doing too much of the showboat. And Eddie Hall has said multiple times, I don't hate Thor. You know, I just want to make sure that I can do something that's financially viable. I'll work with him. I'm willing to wait for him to do his training. You know, and I think if these two can come in with that level of respect, and strongman is a sport that is based purely on respect. You know, strongman is a very respect-based sport. You know, people don't do a squat jerk. They always just stand and press because they see a squat jerk, although it's not against the rules, you know, they see it as cheating because it's proper technique. So you don't do it, even though you're allowed. You know, it's a very, very much based like that. So I think if they can bring some of that back, that'll do good things for the sport to bring the eyes in.
For me, what I'd like to see happen is remove the circus around it. Yeah. Don't do the KSI.
Just get rid of the trash talk.
Yeah, trash talking on the stage in the proper way in, touring the country in these things, and just making the sport into a circus and making people think, oh, it's dead easy. What I'd like to see is, if it's going to happen, do it, but do it in some kind of exhibition type manner, not as a professional boxing match where they get a professional license. Train for it correctly, take it seriously, but do it where it's promoting the sport in the right way. Yeah. For me, don't do it to make money. Do it as something that can promote the sport, and both sports, from a strongman perspective as well. Do it in a respectful way. Anything that's don't make it so promoters going to earn a load of money from it. I think they should set a rule now. Say, okay, let's do it. We'll do an exhibition. They're training anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just changing their way of their training. It's going to benefit them in the long run, I think, in terms of the different training elements that they're doing. And do it to promote the sport. Do it to promote the exhibition style of it. But do it where they can earn some money for charities and do good in the world, rather than I'm just doing this because I might need a little bit of money. It's a potential for me to earn a few million quid, and a promoter's dream where I'm going to earn loads and loads of money, screwing people over from a pay-per-view perspective. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to get these people who don't really know boxing that much spend 20 quid to watch it, and they're going to think,
is that what it is? Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that to me is how these type of fantasy matchups should happen.
Yeah.
That it's not a smack in the face to those people who work hard to get to that point in their careers.
Yeah.
It's done in a good way. In a good way. And that's what I would like to see from this. And because that is the biggest bugbear. I don't have got anyone who wants to get in the ring and train hard and do it and have a boxing match, but do it where financially they're not doing it for that reason and that reason only.
Agree. I think that's a good place to wrap up then. Take it off there. Right. No, it was good. It was good. Anybody's in the Northeast, go to Marden ABC. I've now got to try and work out how to end this chat and edit and all the rest, so it's probably going to be awful. But thank you for doing this, Dean. I really appreciate it.
No worries at all, mate. Good speaking to you.
You too. Have a good day.
Yeah. Bye now.